Welcome back to the Designer Solutions training. Today we're going to focus on what we call the broker administration tab still. So we are still sitting here and we're doing the basic setup. In our last session, if you have not seen it, please go and review it. It is our introduction and also how to load our product management because that is vitally important. Your product management and your dealership management, I would say, in this section, your broker admin tab in general is probably the most important parts for you to set up and to ensure that are 100% correct before importing policy from Signio, Ceriti or iPlatform, as well as to ensure that your proper management going forward in terms of reporting is 100% accurate. So today we are focusing on client or broker or dealer management. So depending on how you work, if you're purely non-underwritten and you only do non-underwritten funding, you can call them clients. If you are doing both a little bit of insured product and non-underwritten, you can call them brokerages or dealerships. If you're only doing stuff that's on a monthly basis and you're selling it to a brokerage, you can call them brokerages. For the sake of ease of use and because of the variety of terminologies used, we have limited now to clients. So whether it's a brokerage, a dealership or a call center, we're going to call it clients. So in order to view your current set of clients, you're going to literally click on View Clients and you are going to then wait for this thing to finish a search. This is going to bring up whatever dealerships or clients that you've loaded previously, and that will automatically just come straight onto the books. If you're going to add a new client, you're going to add a client here by clicking this button. And that's going to bring up a blank form for you to use. However, in the meantime, let's just go talk about a few other aspects or benefits that the system does offer. You can also view your leads. Now, lead management is very important. So this is a list of dealerships that you may or may not have on your books. Now, these will be garnered from the internet or wherever you've got them, and we can import this to you to say, right, these are what your sales reps need to go and have a look at. And we can convert these into leads or into dealerships as and when you go out and sell your product to the client. You can also add leads if you wanted to manually by literally going on and saying whether it's a qualified lead, yes or no, and adding in the basic information so that your sales agent will be able to pick this up from the system and then be able to view it and report on how the lead is going. And that'll be under the View Leads button. So once you've done that leap, you'll then be able to either from a view lead convert directly to a client, but failing that you're not using the lead system, you are able to still manage clients by using either view clients or add clients. So for purpose of this video, we are going to show you how to add a new client onto the Synaptic system. You will click the Add Client button and this screen will now show. If you are a management agent and you might be managing more than one UMA, you will have a drop-down list here that will allow you to select what UMA you are managing and who you are loading, or on behalf of who you are loading this product. If you are a UMA and you are only for yourself, that will only remain blank, or it'll only have your name in it and it will not allow you to drop down. So if you are XYZ UMA or management agents and you've got your own batch of products and your own batch of dealerships or clients that you are going to sell to, this will not be able to be changed. But if you're managing on behalf of multiple, you'll be able to change. You're now going to enter in all the registered information for the company. So we're going to just create for ourselves a basic list or a basic testing dealer that we'll be able to give you some information for. So we're going to say the registered entity is called, I don't know, Network 21 Holding Company Pty Limited. Now you might find that they have a shell company that they've converted, but whatever the registered legal name by CIPC is will need to be loaded into here. You will then load in the company trading as name. So we're going to say here Llewellyn's Motors. Okay. That will then be whatever the branch is actually called. So what is on their signage outside the branch? What's on their letterheads? Let's see what is actually being told to the front line of the dealership as it goes. We'll then enter in their telephone number. You will then select the BEE rating of this particular client. So depending on where they fall, whether it's SME, small procurement, or whether it's going to be black owned or black female owned, you'll be able to select the level of procurement that they have in terms of their level BEE. For purposes of demonstration, I'm going to put down here level 4. You're then going to enter in the dealer principal's name and then your dealer internal code. So if you have a separate coding system that comes either from a previous batch or maybe a CRM system, you're able to now put this dealership code into here. So you can actually say LM001, and that will pertain to my, let's say, CRM system in our office. The VAT number, which is 10 digits, you'll have to put in. And then if they are using a split account number, so if you're using Deaerlship or you're using VAPS Consulting, you need to put in their code. Now, Deaerlship codes usually start in a D or a C, but you can add in D01, for example, which will be referenced to the Deaerlship code that they will have, or that submits, or that has the same code on the Deaerlship platform, so that we can also be able to come back and forth and manage that when we start importing things like Deaerlship. When you put in the Deaerlship code, you'll see immediately user split payment will come up to show here. So it'll be automatically selected. Now that will be done if everything is coming through Deaerlship. So in other words, if this dealership is utilizing Deaerlship and you are managing it through Deaerlship for collections of those premiums straight from the bank, then it will come through from that, but it'll just show the system that you are doing that. So if the company is utilizing Deaerlship for third-party collections, and it's coming straight from Westbank or the actual finance house into Deaerlship, and then from Deaerlship into your holding account, or Deaerlship is managing your third-party collection, then that will automatically show there. If you don't want it to, you are able to uncheck it. But in terms of the case where most people use Deaerlship, most of the premiums are coming straight through Deaerlship. In terms of your non-underwritten, don't worry too much about that, because the system isn't that specific and will be allowed to change what holding accounts you're sending it to based on your product setup. Now again, this is why I urge you. The first port of call in the entire system is product setup, product management. If you are only responsible for loading dealers, I would definitely make sure that the person responsible for loading product setup is done and dusted before you start doing anything under dealership management or client management. You're then going to enter in your postal code for the company, your metro council, and your suburb, and then your street name. And if you've got a unit, you can then add in the unit number and the unit name if you had to. So if it's an industrial park or something, you can add in one, I don't know, Nostastria Place 2, whichever the case may be. You then enter in the country of origin. Now you have to enter in the PI cover for the information. So you look at this page and you think to yourself, there are a certain standard amount of items I'm going to need before we load a dealership. So please make sure that whoever is in the sales department will give you the sales pack or the dealer pack as it's required, or the broker pack as it's required. And remember, you are going to need things like bank accounts, you are going to need things like compliance information, your intermediary information, maybe your call cycle information. You're also going to need to know their bank codes, and then a host of documents, including directors' IDs and everything that will be necessary to upload for your purposes of the contracts. You'll have to look at your PI cover, add in the PI cover policy number, and what date does that expire on? So hopefully that's somewhere in the future, and we put the expiry date down. Anything predated from today's date will glow red and it will not allow you to save. For purpose of hierarchical reporting, you are going to want to know what group name and what holding company you are going to be using here. So if you've got a holding company, so this is the holding company for a multitude of different dealerships, you will add in one here. So you can then add in this here. This is set up before setting up your dealership so that you can then load these things in. But you can load in a hierarchy. So this is the holding company, or this is under this holding company. So let's say Network 21 is a particular holding company. You can add in Network 21 and that'll group together all the Network 21 branches in total. Or you could say Network 21 Gauteng, and then you can group them by region, or you can group them by particular type of vehicle if they're multi-franchise. So let's say Group 1 Network Holding Company has got 4 different dealerships in the same lot, multi-franchise dealership. You can then group this here between Nissan, Hyundai, or whatever the case may be. If it's a brokerage, you can group it by certain areas, or by maybe a head sales rep or a particular team manager. So the grouping is up to you and how you want to do that. We'll get more into grouping when we go into reporting and then give you a full explanation of how that hierarchical structure works. You'll then enter in their registration number. Please remember it is always the year of registration followed by 6 digits and then followed by a 23 or a 07 or whatever the code may be that is necessary. If it is a limited company, you put in the limited company's code. But please take this from the CIPC documents and make sure you've got the CIPC documents before you do that. We're going to have this as a company for now. And then we're going to say here that the FSP number, sorry, make sure that's going to work. See, it throws you out. Make sure that your FSP number here is going to be accurate. So you need to add in a correct FSP number here, which is tied to your FSP registers. Once you've done that, you're going to select the region from your predetermined regions that you're going to do it. And I'm going to select, for example, Gauteng. We're then going to say who the sales rep is. So I'm going to select Llewellyn. And now you are ready to load your first dealership. Before we go into anything else, I need you to create the file. So I always say, think of this or the computer system as creating a new file in a filing cabinet. So what I've loaded here on the top section is literally what my manila folder used to look like. I'm going to now say save that and update that. It's going to warn me group name is incorrect. It's going to warn me that the holding company is not set. We are happy with that. What it's done now is it's created the manila folder. Now we can start putting files and information into the manila folder. You will see that when I started typing, this bar was a light gray. It means I couldn't click it. Anyone who ever phones us for support saying, oh, I can't click save and return on the note, means that you haven't given us a proper defined information. We've asked you to please insert as much information as possible here. Not only does it cover you, it also covers your company for any indemnity. So we always say, whenever you're loading anything, changing anything, updating anything, please give us a decent notice of why it happens. And when you click save and return, it's going to save it with your name, the date, and the time that you saved this information. Again, allocate dealer permissions. So in order to be able to manage a dealer, if you are the sole company handling this, you are going to say read and write. Let's say, for example, I've got a third-party claims team. I can say they have got the permission to read as well. So please make sure that you set this up correctly, as you cannot change it once it has been set. Once that's done, we're going to say thank you. It'll say company successfully saved. It'll now stay on here, but you'll see that all the buttons are now active. So now I can start adding in more and more and more information. So if I'm going to upload anything, so we're going to say these are the different types of things that we can upload. So validation of address, you can browse for the file, you can find the file, you can upload the file. Okay, you can also view the file if you want to check that you've uploaded the right file. And you carry on with this. We've got the registration documents, the VAT certificate, the IGF, slip payment systems, so the letter from Deaerlship or the confirmation from Deaerlship that this is a Deaerlship dealer or VAP consulting dealer, the bank account validation, your directors' IDs, you can upload there, BE rating, letterheads, FSP certification. So every piece of documentation that you can think of is uploaded here. I would also suggest loading up your client intermediary agreements and also your client contracts, because we also have the facility to be able to give a copy of the system as read-only to your insurance company so that they can go and check the validity of documents if they're doing an audit for you. So that's easy enough to do. Once you do that, you then close that down. It'll save all the information. You can now also go in here, if it is a dealership, not a brokerage, we can add in bank codes. So we can say what bank it is and what the dealer code is for that bank. Obviously Capitec or Bidvest won't have that, but Nedbank or MFC will have a dealer code. So you can list the dealer codes for every single person. We can also say what platform are they dealing with at the moment, so we can know where do we expect information to come in from, whether it's Signio, Ceriti or DealerNet or any of the other platforms like iPlatform, for example. We can then also upload our bank details, so it's going to ask you for the information on the client's bank account so that any refunds or any clawbacks that need to be done will automatically be able to be posted straight back to that dealership. Your call cycle, if you're running sales reps and you have set up your call cycles, you can now select which call cycle the dealership needs to be set up to. And that'll give your reps an idea of how often they need to call on that particular dealership. We are then going to load in our compliance management information. So when you click on compliance, it's going to ask you for all the compliance information for that particular person or that particular dealership. So the compliance obviously details your complaints and compliance, your email addresses, and if you're doing it by a third party, let's say VAPS Consulting or another compliance like a DFS Solutions, you'll then be able to enter the information into here. Once that's entered into, this information will appear on any disclosures that are printed from the dealership side. When you've done with all of these buttons, you're then going to go on to adding new users. So what you want to do here is that you want to ensure that you are able to now load in users and people's names so that we understand how that dealership is manufactured, how it's set up, how that dealership is set up. So when we get to the position, you can now select whether you want to do it in accounting, management, operations, sales, F&I, other, or consultant. So you are welcome to put in whatever the position is here. You are actually able to add in their hobbies, I don't know, trumpet, for example. You're also adding in the languages. So we're going to say English and let's say they can speak Afrikaans, for example. So that'll be there. So now you know what's going on. So this is going to give you a nice amount of information that your sales reps could probably utilize in order to enhance the relationship with that particular agency. Don't worry about the passwords, those are automatically allocated. And you're going to have the FSP number, which is going to be the same as the dealership. So we're going to bring that straight away through. And we need to check to see what's happening here. Is this person a KI or a rep? So we're going to say this person's a KI. And then you are going to enter in, if they're under supervision, how many months is still left and what their expiry date of the under supervision certificate is. Then what you're going to do is that if you want to, you can now add in the voucher card and card number of that particular person so that if they are selling product and you are issuing them with a voucher card for rebate purposes, you can add that in here. You can now save the information. So now we've loaded our users, we can now load multiple users in here, and this will effectively allow us to then literally create the entire branch structure depending on how the branch is working from there. Now the important thing to do before we shut this client down or before we sort of finalize the client is that we want to start adding products in here. So you're going to be adding product and it's going to give you at the top all the companies that you can load product from. So now I'm going to select the company that we're going to do the products from. We are then going to say we're going to load our test warranty we did in the previous video, and we're going to do our service to service plan one as well. We're then going to say return. Now, if you remember in our testing product, we actually had a variety of splits. So when you click on add split, you will now be able on that product to decide, are you going to keep it on master or do you want to move it to split one? And this is how you're going to manage your dealership splits from here on forth. So we're going to leave it at this point on master because it's a new dealership and we don't want to penalize them at this stage. You can see the service plan product has no sales price because you're going to garner that from Cerrito Signia as it comes into the system, or as a manual capture, it's going to ask you for the actual sales price. So this is a percentage-based product. Once all that's done, you can then just update the client file again. It'll go to warn you about group name and holding company. That has now committed the save to the database on your products and your pricings. So now you're going to add your company note in. And set up your read write permissions. Okay. Now what happens is you can now have a look around the screen. So let's just quickly go through what can happen in this particular screen. At the bottom right here, we've got include non-underwritten voucher partial credit. So if you've got an agreement with this client that if products are cancelled in any particular shape, way or form within its duration and you're going to claw back the voucher that you paid initially, you can select this particular button. So this checkbox will allow you then to claw that back. It'll claw it back in a pro rata phase from whatever the date of sale was to whatever the date of end was and how much cover it's had achieved. So this will give you a pro rata clawback when this product goes down. Now, this is not normally common for vouchers, but if you do have a deal like that, or you do want to claw back as much of the policy to give the customer the right of satisfaction, you can add that button, which will then create a clawback account, very much like your commission clawbacks. You can flag the dealership for claims. So what will happen here is that you will then be able to say, please call this brokerage on every claim, because they are tracking their own claims. So that's if they want to track it. So anytime someone goes into a claim and that client belongs to this brokerage or this dealership or this client, it'll pop up a little box saying, hey guys, just to check here. We can literally flag this dealership for whatever reason. And we can say here, incorrect details, uploading this statement did not work, or we are still waiting on documents from the client, or awaiting signed contract. You can add anything here that you wish to add in as a flag, so that you know that you need to go and look at it later. So now your flag's active. So I'm going to inactivate the flag, so it goes green, the flag will be removed. So we can do the flag and say, waiting for client contract from sales, and continue. So now you'll see the flag will have returned and it'll be on the dealership itself. So now we go on to update file again. This is all completed. We're going to say yes. So we say flagged the dealer and checked commission clawbacks. Let's call it voucher commission to be more specific. Save and return. Okay, read and write there and allocate. Okay, company successfully saved. So now if I go into view clients and I go here, please remember that now we don't do the automatic searching. This one we search clinically for, because of the fact that there is so many dealers that you can possibly have on your books. So we've now got our two things. You'll see that I flagged it and it says here awaiting client contract from sales. So you can see that we flagged the dealership and it's there. Let's say we received the client contract, we go back into the dealership. Now in live training I'd say, can you show me where the client contract goes? But I can't on video. So here I'll go straight to documents, add in the client contract, and we can upload that document from there. Now what happens is you can then take off the flag, for example, and say update file, okay, and add a new note in. Again, I'll ask you to please note that, remember, anything you do is by your username. So your username on the date and the time up to the second that you did the structure. So anything that's done is added into here. Even your searches on the dealership are added into that box. You just can't see them. So we can track to see who's been searching what, when, how, and what your actions and movements on the Synaptic system is at all times. Once that's loaded, you'll see now that the dealership is loaded. It's not going to ask you for any allocation permissions anymore. So remember what I said before. The minute you've allocated it, you've completed your dealer loading, it's not going to ask you for that information again. So now you can now either view the client, or you can now go on to do normal administration work. However, while we're still here, let's look at this. Our FSP number was not recognized. So what you want to do is you want to view your list of FSPs. So first of all, let's just go and have a look at, under Designer Solutions, I have got no FSPs that are listed that are in any particular shape or form close to what I had on my dealer. So now we want to add our FSP. Now, FSP number, we called it 32785. We're going to call the FSP name Llewellyn Marais for this case now. We are going to say last request was on the 2nd, accepted on today's date, and we haven't resubmitted it yet. Premium allocation is going through Deaerlship, and the insurer name is going to be Designer Solutions. Now it's going to ask you for the FSP document, and you are going to bring that up. Do you want to load FSP documents? Yes. Right, so now that it's loaded, we can just double check the FSP register to make sure that it is loaded correctly. And you will see here now that the 32785 has been correctly loaded. So now if we go back to viewing our client documents, you will see that my FSP number has now gone a bright green, which means that we are accepted and we are happy that this dealership has been loaded successfully 100%. So that's basically it. Hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's shed some light on the FSP register and you're adding and removing clients. Thank you very much. See you next time.